Well, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. This is Stacy Porter from 2020 Mom, and we are so happy to have all of you here today, here to talk about the upcoming excitement of Mom Congress and what we are all there to accomplish. So we've got a number of people today who are here and going to help walk us through some helpful information. This webinar is by no means mandatory, but it is a helpful guide should you want to prep yourself so that we're ready to go when we get out to DC in May. And I also just wanted to let you know it's going to be about a half an hour today, and we'll talk about some FAQs here at the end. So thank you again for joining us. And I just also want to let you guys know that this webinar is being recorded because we're going to send it out to everybody on the Mom Congress Facebook group to listen later if they weren't able to join today. So without further ado, I'm going to let our panelists go ahead and introduce themselves. So ladies, go for it.
Hi, this is Marie McCausland. So Becca and I will be talking to you a little bit about using your mom voice. And, I had a near miss, and so did Becca. She's having some issues with her audio right now, so I'll be going over that stuff with you today, unless we can get that figured out. But I'm here to really help you guys own use your mom voice and tell you how to tell your why in 2 minutes or less. And I know there's another person on the call too.
Hi, my name is Megan Montgomery. I have been in politics for, hard to believe, 20 years. My first introduction to life in politics was the Bush 4 campaign, and I have since then gone on to law school, and I spent the better part of 2 decades lobbying both at the federal and state level before settling into my current position as the executive director of a trade association with a focus on advocacy. And I'm here today to help you advocates in training feel supported and empowered and ready to be effective voices for the change we wish to see.
And I'm Jennifer Owens. I am the former editor-in-chief of Working Mother magazine and now lead the editorial for Healthy Women, which has been supporting the Mom Congress in telling the story of moms nationwide as for setting up our advocacy work for next year. I've done a lot of storytelling, and so I'm here to help as an editor on how to shape your story in a way that makes it as engaging as possible. Your stories are great, and it's just how to sharpen them so that they grip someone and get the point across as fast as humanly possible, because everyone's busy. We know we are, so are our listeners. So I'm very happy to help.
Beautiful. Is that everybody who's on the line with us today? Probably. So, all right, so just a quick overview of what we're doing today on this call. We are first going to start by reviewing the storytelling worksheet, which is what you see up on your screen right now. And then we're going to go over the training that's going to be provided during Mom Congress. So that Monday, I believe we're going to do some training before we go out to meet with our legislators. And then the final thing we'll do is review the resources that are on the website. So let's go ahead and start with Marie and see if Becca, were you able to make it on audio yet? If not, then we're going to let Marie take it away and go ahead.
Okay, so the worksheet is called Use Your Mom Voice, How to Tell Your Why in 2 minutes or Less. And this is basically your elevator pitch of your story that you're going to be telling the Congress people or their staffer when you are making your Hill visit. And what the point of doing this worksheet is to take your story, your trauma, and really boil it down to something that can immediately, as Jennifer said, like make an impact and help push forward legislation which can help moms. And one thing that we wanted to point out is that, if you feel like you're like, I don't even have a story. There's people who have stories that are much worse than mine, or, I feel like, at least I survived or whatever. Like, just throw that all out the window and recognize that your trauma is valid. The things that you've experienced are valid, and there's a reason why you're here today, and that's to make a difference. And so we have, I believe, 4 steps to getting to this really short, about 2-minute long elevator pitch. And another thing I wanted to point out too is that sometimes that can feel minimizing, taking all of the trauma and things that you've experienced. I know for me, I had a near miss with my son, postpartum preeclampsia, and I nearly died, and it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And somehow you're supposed to take that and tell people in 2 minutes or less, like, that they should care. And sometimes that can feel a little bit odd, but it's important to do because you only have a small amount of time with these people. And so you have to boil it down to the most impactful parts. So the first step is to just write it down. So it doesn't matter how you start writing, either on a computer or with a pen and paper, or even stealing some crayons out of your kid's crayon box, just do something and write it down, in all the gory details. Don't leave anything out. We put some questions that can sort of help you get started in thinking about how the experience impacted you. So, what was your life like before what happened to you? I know I did not anticipate the life that I'm living right now before I had my son. It's changed me completely. How has your life changed? How did it change how you viewed yourself? I feel more empowered now than ever, knowing that I survived it and I've made a change. I certainly didn't anticipate that being what I felt immediately after the experience either. But think about how it changed how you viewed yourself in that moment too, because that's important to sort of go through. Did it impact your decisions about having more children? I know for me, it's changed, my timeline for sure. It's a lot more scary to think about, what if something happened to me down the road? I know a lot of women have had hysterectomies, have had just issues that they no longer can have children. And how did that impact you? I know it made a big impact on me. And then how the experience shaped you? What about your experience is unique to you? I know it seems like a lot of people have, at least similar events, but there's always something unique to your story that can make a big impact. Why do you want to tell your story? If there's one thing you want your listener to remember, just basically this whole list of questions to ask yourself while you're writing the story to really understand what the impact has been on you. So the next step is to pare that down and practice it. So at first I would aim for maybe 10 minutes and then to 5. And I think what's useful too is to tell your story to someone. Now you'll have practice with this at Mom Congress, where we're going to put you in groups, and you'll be able to start telling your story and sharing your story. And what I think is most helpful to me when I started breaking my story down into an elevator pitch is watching other people's reactions. So for instance, when I talk about how I was going to, I took my blood pressure and I realized it was high, and I thought maybe I would go down, lay down and take a nap. And it was in that moment that I realized if I go to sleep, I won't wake up. It's a moment that really talks to people's hearts and makes people realize like how serious it was. And I talk about when I, took pictures with my son in the emergency room thinking, that's the only thing that he's going to have left of me. I'm going to die, and that's what he's going to have left. Like, and you can see people's reactions to that are just of like, whoa, like that's scary. And it's those moments that, they impacted you. But when you see that it impacts others as well, you recognize those moments and use those, because it's easier to sort of break it down into those 2-minute segments when you have the most impactful parts of your story sort of in the back of your mind. Okay. So another point I wanted to make too is that when you start thinking about the groups you'll go and legislate for the legislative visit, when you start meeting them, it might be helpful to start thinking how to weave your stories together and see what similarities and differences are, so that you can easily transition between your stories. So again, the third one is to start telling someone. So that's when you're really starting to watch the reactions, figure out which parts of your story elicit a reaction, and that's going to be the ones that have the most impact. And then it'll give you confidence that, in your storytelling, and that you're able to really share your story in a powerful and impactful way. And then the last one is that, you're not alone. And so, all of the women that are coming and to this event are there to share their stories in an impactful way. And they may not have done this before, just like you, or they may have done it a few times, who knows? But certainly in that space, like, you are not alone. And it's really wonderful to be in a group of women who just get it. They get it. You don't have to explain to them why what you experienced is traumatic or why what you experienced is important, for you to make sure that it doesn't happen to other women. And that's just empowering in itself. And you're going to meet a lot of wonderful moms who will become lifelong friends. So I think that's the gist of what I wanted to get you started with. We're going to have a session on Monday that's 45 minutes where we're going to go through these steps. We'll put you into groups and give you a little bit of time to write it down, and then basically just have you guys talk to each other and start sort of practicing, but just getting that experience of seeing the feedback. So I think that's the end of my spiel. If there's anything else that you can think of.
Hey, Marie,
Yeah.
this is Becca. Can anybody hear me?
We
Yes.
can, Becca. Hi.
Yay! That only took a really long time. Thank you,
You made
Marie. You did a really good job just going through the worksheet. For the moms that are going to be listening in on this either now or later on, I know that it can feel a little bit intimidating to try to figure out what your own story is, and you definitely don't have to have it all figured out before you attend Mom Congress. But talking to people who experienced the story with you, I think might help you before you come. So maybe talking to your family or for friends who maybe walked through this alongside of you, to just kind of spark some things that maybe you forgot or maybe things you tried to forget. And then also trying to find people that haven't heard your story. So once Mom Congress begins, Marie and I will have an opportunity for you guys in some fashion to get into groups and to just share parts of your story as you're trying to come up with your why and your short version of it to try to help you. So for the moms that are on here listening who really just feel like, I don't know that I have a story, I really want to encourage you that you do have a story. And just like Marie said, it does matter. Like for myself, my incident happened 6 years ago, and I still at times feel like, oh, maybe it's not impactful because I survived, my son survived, but there's power in sharing it and talking about the parts of your story that were traumatic for you, and you'll identify that there's other moms out there who need to hear your story.
Absolutely. Thank you, Becca. That's awesome. So Marie and Becca, I cannot wait to see you guys at Mom Congress and to be working through this with all of you. So let's see, we are going to now move, unless anybody has anything else for that portion, we're going to go ahead and move on to Claire, is it Jennifer who's going to take this part about our training?
It's Megan.
Oh, sorry, Megan. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Okay.
So Megan is going to go ahead and cover what we're going to be doing when we are there at Mom Congress. So go for it, Megan.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Claire and I have been working hard with the rest of the Mom Congress team to make sure that you advocates and advocates in training have an excellent time and an excellent opportunity to use your story to affect change. So there's several types of storytelling that we hope that you all will be engaged in over the course of the Mom Congress. One is therapeutic story sharing, and one is using that elevator speech to connect with legislators and their legislative staff to really narrow down exactly what part of the experience proper legislation could have helped address. And so I really can't emphasize enough that, that elevator speech part of your story is going to be vital in being able to use your voice in the most effective manner possible for the portion of advocacy. And we're going to have plenty of opportunity to help you ladies and, your advocates do that. There's going to be a marketed toward first-time advocates and team leaders, but honestly open to all and encouraged. We hope everybody that comes to the Mom Congress will attend the Advocacy Training breakfast. And then we're also going to have a session getting ready to head to the Hill. And as mentioned before, that will be some limited story shaving time. And also that's going to be tremendously focused on getting your groups together, getting you folks to gel as a group, getting you comfortable, and interweaving your stories with the handouts and the talking points that you're going to be given. Because a story is most effective if it is told in a sandwich format. What do we need? Why do we need it? Here's how it will change things. What do we need? We need better access to postpartum care for moms. Why? Because moms are dying. How do I know? Because this is my 2 or 3 sentence story, right? Those things allow legislators and their staff to use your stories to affect change. And we are really, really excited for the opportunity to share with you all the tools that we use to be effective advocates. And moving into sort of what we've got in store, we'll have plenty of opportunities at the conference to build effective advocates. If you have advocated before, we hope that you learn a new trick or two. If there's something that you have found really effective, we hope that you use some of this time to stand up and share with the group. These are the things that sort of have, worked for us and for the movement, but there's always room to broaden what's out there and what's working. And we very strongly believe that effective advocates are empowered, they feel good about their advocacy efforts and the preparation going in, and the follow-up plan going out, and they feel that they've made a difference in sharing their story in a way that will allow legislators to see the path forward to help fix it. So there are some things that we suggest that you folks can do, you advocates can do before you get here, to the extent that you're comfortable. You know, everybody has a very different tolerance for what they've done advocacy-wise in the past. You may be new to this. You may still be recovering from a birth, particularly a traumatic birth. You may have never reached out to an elected official. That may be very intimidating. I can tell you I've been doing this 20 years, and there are still situations in which I have to take a deep breath and say, man, I'm meeting with XYZ person, and it's okay. I can do this. I'm prepared. I'm ready. It's still intimidating to me. So don't feel that intimidation is a reflection on your lack of ability or potential effectiveness in this situation. So going into next week's Mom Congress, there are a couple of things you can do should you choose. One, I recommend, to the extent that you are comfortable and to the extent that this doesn't violate your personal belief system, you consider donating to your local congressmen or senators, if you so choose. And this does not have to be a big amount of money. Believe me, you can go on their website and give them a $5 or $10 donation. And when you walk into that door and say, not only am I a constituent, but I'm also a donor, you will be shocked at the amount of impact that has. And I'll give you a statistic, which is a statistic that my personal congressman uses. He said, I believe that for every email I get, there are 10 people that have that same issue. For every phone call I get, I believe there are about 100 people that have that same issue. And for every constituent office visit I get, where a constituent takes the time to make an appointment, come into my district office, or come down to Washington, D.C., and to tell me their story and to try and work with me to figure out a fix, I believe that there are 1,000 of my voters that have that same story to be told. So don't underestimate the fact that just coming and showing up and being part of this movement is huge. If you think to yourself, walking in these offices represent to some of these congressmen 1,000 stories, I think it just makes that opportunity so much more impactful and effective, and empowers you in a way that is so good for the overall movement and for your own personal advocacy. So that's one thing you can do. You can donate to your campaign. You can also, in doing that, or in looking and seeing what, if you're going to do that, you need to figure out who your representatives and your senators are. You can go to congress.gov, CONGRESS.gov. There's a section there. It says find your representative, find your senators. If you don't know them, it's very user-friendly. And look at them. Look at what do they vote like? Yes, whether they're Republican or Democrat is a piece of information, and there's also their voting record underneath. There are, I can tell you, some very, very liberally voting Republicans, and there are some very conservative, true blue dog Democrats whose voting records would belie that label. So try and dig a little bit deeper to the extent that you have time and figure out what some things are that you can support about this congressperson, or to the extent that there's not very much, at least you can go in knowing, okay, this is going to be maybe a tougher cookie than I thought. So that's another thing you can do. To the extent that this is convenient for you and this is not something that you find intimidating at this point in your advocacy journey, you can also drop by the district office. If you live near a district office, and on every single member's webpage, they list their Washington, D.C. office, and they list their district office or offices, depending on the size of their district. And you can go by. You can say, hey, I'm going to Washington next week, and I just wanted to introduce myself and tell you I'm meeting with Brian and your D.C. staff, and, I'm really excited. Is there anything that I can do to help you folks in your district office, or is there anything district office that I should know before going to Washington? And when you get to Washington, you can then turn around and say, hey, Brian, I talked to Joe in your district office the other day. I stopped by. It was great to meet him. We had a great conversation. We're really looking forward to working together. So you can do that to the extent that you have something, and this is, again, it is budget dependent, it is inclination dependent, and it is time dependent. To the extent that you have something in your district that is fun or special or unique or, whatever the case may be, that you want to either drop off to the district offices. Every time I personally go to the district office, I bring a dozen donuts. It cost me $5 from Safeway. Everybody's really happy. It doesn't hurt anything. It's not breaking any rules. And it makes the interaction so much more of a win-win because I get the feeling that I'm getting to know my district office my representative district office staff a little bit better. They get the feeling that they have a constituent that not only cares about the issues and cares enough to passionately advocate for their issue or issues, but also that these are constituents that recognize behind the label of legislative staff, these are folks that frankly don't make much money and like donuts, right? Like, let's call a spade a spade. So those are some things you can do if you're coming from San Francisco. Jelly Belly beans are made in San Francisco. If you want to bring some, if you don't, it's fine. But these are some very simple and very, very effective ways to pre-prepare for your visits and to pre-prepare for coming here. And if all you want to do is look up your legislator, your congressmen and your senators, that's fine. That doesn't cost a dime, and it doesn't take a lot of time, and it makes a world of difference. Frankly, as much for the advocacy as for your own comfort level going, I know something about this person. I've seen their picture. If they walked into the room, I wouldn't not know who they were. And we're really, really excited once you get here to continue giving you tools upon which to build not just an advocacy platform for this week, although we're very excited for that opportunity, but the goal is to empower everyone that comes to Mon Congress to be able to send you back home with advocacy tools to allow you to be the best advocate you can be. And, the federal level is one level upon which to build an advocacy platform. It's obviously the platform that this conference is looking to address, but at the county level, at the state level, my husband's currently fighting for a stop sign in front of our house because we think that people go too fast, whatever, that's irrelevant. But, these skills, these are the same skills, and it is a gift that you can give yourself and your community to embrace the opportunity that we have as Americans to engage in this kind of advocacy, because it is a rare and precious gift.
Thank you. That is some amazing advice. And actually, I know, like she said, it can be intimidating, but going to the offices are always, it's nice to get to know your local legislators and their staff. So I've done it, and, it was kind of nervous at the beginning, but they're human beings just like us, guys. So that's great advice. Okay, so before we wrap up here, I just want to give you guys a couple of resources. And I apologize, I'm not sure if this was mentioned already, but just in case, just for you all to know, you don't have to do anything to set up these appointments. We are doing this on your behalf. And so we will, make sure you have all that information when you get to DC, okay? So finally, I just wanted to show a couple of resources for you. Some people are asking like logistical stuff about when they're out in DC. So I just wanted to show you guys that on the Mom Congress website. All right, can you guys mute your lines if you're not talking? Thank you. We've got some background noise. Okay, so on the Mom Congress website, which is www.mom-congress.com, you'll see that the full agenda is up. So once you go to that website, you scroll all the way down and you will be able to click through to the conference schedule right here. It gives a breakdown here, but it'll go step by step if you click onto this tab right here. Okay, so you guys can refer to that. And also, I wanted to point out that there is FAQs available on that site as well. So right towards the beginning of the homepage, read FAQs. So this is going to cover things like if you're new to this, kind of what to expect, even though we've talked about some of it on the call. It's talked about, what's included and extra costs, what to wear, which airport to fly into, although you probably are already all set with that. So there's just a whole bunch of things that might be useful information to you. So just wanted to make sure you all knew that that was there. So I think we are probably good to go. That's going to be it for now, unless anybody else has anything they want to add at the last moment here. We are really, really excited to see you guys when you come out, and we thank you on behalf of 2020 Mom, and I'm going to go ahead and step in and say thank you from the Mom Congress team, because this is just such important work that we're doing. And once you get the hang of it, it's a lot of fun, and it's something that we can get used to going to every year. So thank you all for tuning in, and thank you all to our panelists for sharing this wonderful information. I am looking forward to seeing everybody out there. So have a great day, and if you need any more information, let's see. Guys on the Mom Congress team, is there an email that you prefer for people to email if they've got any questions? Anybody? If not, that's okay. You can always email info@2020mom and we can get you hooked up with the right person. Okay, so thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day, and we'll see you in DC.